Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Dog Owners Podcast. My name is Vinnie. That is Brent. And today we are very excited for one reason, because we get to interview one of the most famous veterinarians in the entire world, Dr. Evan Antin. Brent and I are going to sit and ask him all of the questions that we want to know, that you want to know, and get some answers to some difficult questions. Let's get started.
Welcome back, guys. Today's guest is Dr. Evan Antin. Now, Evan is one of the most recognized veterinarians in the world. He's a practicing veterinarian, television host, author, wildlife conservation advocate, and someone who's worked with animals on nearly every corner of the globe. Many of you know him from Animal Planet's Evan Goes Wild, his book, World Wild Vet, or from his social media channels where he's helped millions of people better understand the animals we share this planet with. Over the course of his career, he's treated everything from household pets to some of the world's most incredible wildlife. And along the way, he's become one of the most trusted voices in animal health and welfare. Now, normally this is the part where we interview him and we spend the next 20 to 30 minutes going over how Evan got into veterinary medicine and his travels and his wildlife encounters and all that stuff. But here's the thing. This is the Dog Owners Podcast, and while we absolutely appreciate Evan's incredible journey, we know our audience is here because they want to become better dog owners. So today, Vinnie and I wanted to do something a little different. Instead of focusing on Evan's story, we're going to focus on what he's learned from a lifetime of caring for animals, and more specifically, what he's learned from examining, treating, and helping thousands upon thousands of dogs. Our goal for this conversation is simple. By the end of this episode, we want every listener to walk away with practical insights that help their dog live a healthier, happier, and longer life. So, Dr. Evan Antin, welcome to the Dog Owners Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Thank you for being here, man. Dr. Evan, after examining thousands of dogs throughout your career, what have you learned about dogs that the average dog owner still doesn't kind of fully understand?
No, that's a great question. And I love being on this podcast to talk about it because one of the most underutilized tools is the approach to dog behavior and dog training. It brings so much value to pet parents and their dogs, and it can make them just live happier, more effective lives. So people just don't take advantage of it enough, basically. They don't think about it when they're getting puppies. The only thing they think about is potty training. That's it. Maybe a couple other things. Maybe don't chew on this, don't bite that, whatever. But if this is something you just invest a little more time in, you can have such a better relationship with your dog and have less issues, more fun. Everything's better. It's so worthwhile to put the time in to do this because dogs are super smart and they'll learn good behaviors quickly and they'll avoid non-rewarded behaviors pretty quickly too, honestly. It's really worth the time or the money that it entails.
I appreciate you so much for opening up with that because we preach all the time how good psychological health and understanding things lowers anxiety. And we know lowering anxiety helps with physical health. So I can't wait to dive into this episode with you, man. I guess let me ask you, what do you think is a common mistake that consistently you see loving dog owners making with their dogs?
That's kind of a simple but deep question. It's kind of a twofold thing. Number one, dogs are not people. People always want to anthropomorphize everything, all animals, even wildlife. I mean, really all species. I feel like that's just a human nature thing to do, I've come to learn. And they're not. The way they communicate things, which they can communicate a lot. They don't speak English or speak words, but their body language, things you guys know, they communicate a lot, but they're not people and they don't communicate in the same ways. They'll say things like, he's limping, but he's not in pain. And it's like, okay, they're not saying yeah, my knee really hurts, but they're limping. And that's literally them visually showing us, I am in pain. They are in pain. So that's a very common one. Another common one, honestly, is just your typical preventative health kind of stuff, like dental health, for example. The majority of dogs I see have some degree of dental health, and a lot of them have really severe dental health. And overall preventative medicine, let's just put that in overall preventative medicine. The people are very reactive with their pets. They wait until something's wrong before they talk to me about it or come to the vet hospital, right? And they're not, and they might give some supplements and they give their dogs really high quality food and they, exercise their dogs and give them a really high quality life. And they're really trying. I'm not saying that people don't try or don't put the effort in. Their mindset and their approach is just much more reactive as opposed to preventative. And there's a lot of things we can do to slow down diseases, catch them early, prevent them perhaps, with more preventative measures.
What would some of those things be that the average dog owner doesn't know about?
Even just annual exams. Just go to your vet once a year. behavior. Like, just do it. Even though you think things are going well and there's no obvious problems at home and things seem to be okay, a lot of these changes are really slow and it might not be obvious to you. You might not even realize that your dog's overweight. Like, I tell people that all the time. I mean, some people are aware of it, a lot of people aren't. And we have to have a discussion, and we're going to do our dogs a real favor, a real good service if we can just get them in a healthy weight for one of the most common things we see in older dogs. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of this, is arthritis, right? Osteoarthritis, super common, especially our medium, large, and giant breed dogs, even our little guys, but especially those big guys. And one of the best things you can do to prolong the life of those joints is just keep them at a healthy weight their whole life.
Yep. You mentioned something. I'm an old school guy. Like, I have a farm, and my
Right on.
dogs are running on the farm all the time. And you said something that even I forget about, is how important it is to just check your dog's weight. It's one of the best purchases I ever made was a scale at my house because,
Good man.
well, there was a time period where I didn't take my dog to the vet often, Evan. Like, Dr. Evan, you've worked too damn hard to
Call me
not
Evan.
have your doctor in front of your
No, call
name.
me
I'm
Evan,
gonna
man,
tell you that
please.
right now. Yeah, there was a time period where I just wasn't. I wasn't taking my dog, and before I knew it, he was 20 pounds heavier than he was the last time that I took him to the vet 2, 3 years ago. And if you do not check your dog's weight on a regular basis, it's really hard to see the change happen day to day. I can't recommend that enough. If you don't have a scale at your house or the space for the scale, my vet is a big fan of me just taking my dog down there, weighing them there, getting to meet the staff so they're not a general pain in the ass for the vet to begin with.
Yeah, when you bring them in for weight, we don't have to give any injections. We're not doing any diagnostics. We're not doing anything the dog's not going to like. We can make that like a positive experience, and no vet is going to be sad when one of their clients comes in, brings their pet
Yes.
in just for a weight. Like, we're all going to welcome that. And if they don't, let's find you another vet. But
Yeah.
honestly, they're all going to like that. They're all going to be happy with that kind of a thing. And you're exactly right. I mean, that's advice I give to exotic pet parents all the time, is just get a scale. Like, a lot of times that's, for example, how like reptiles get sick. You don't see it. It's super slow, and they get sick really slow. But we get that scale, or a bird, we start seeing them losing weight. And birds get sick much faster. It's a very different physiology in a lot of ways. Long story short, that is a phenomenal piece of advice, and I do recommend for dog owners too.
So in dog training, we see, things have changed over the last 20, 30 years in how you train dogs, how you raise them, all that stuff. But from a health perspective, are they the same health challenges? Are they different health challenges now, 20, 30 years later?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the health issues and diseases we're presented with as vets, I'm not sure they've changed too significantly. The field has changed significantly. I mean, listen, I'm 41. I remember when I was like 5, 6 years old, our family dog, who was, living at home when I was born, and he was this awesome, super loyal, super gentle Doberman German Shepherd cross. Yeah, he got sick. He got some kind of growth on his neck, and the answer is just put him down. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, like, that's just what it was. And these days, people do so much more for their pets, which is really cool. And that's what I wanted to kind of reiterate earlier too, is like, it's not that people don't care and they're not trying to do things. I think dog owners in general, like, they really are. They do their best. They'll sacrifice their own wallet for their dog's diet. We see that all the time. But yeah, there's just so much more. People do so much more. I mean, a lot of the specialties we have in the veterinary field, we didn't have probably 20, 30 years ago. I'm sure we had some of them, but I mean, we've got, board certified trainers. We've got board certified cardiologists, endocrinologists, internists. We've got dermatologists. We've got surgeons. We've got oncologists, like all these things that just were not a thing when I was a kid. I mean, certainly, especially in the exotic space too, like board certified reptile specialists, which I actually am not sure they exist, but there's board certified exotic pets, board certified zoo vets. There's all these things that are just diving so much deeper in the field. Of course, we have newer technology too, but yeah, yeah, to answer your question, I don't know if there's like major new different health changes from just a few decades ago. The big things are like what's more available now, in terms of how we can manage those issues.
We're recognizing more
Yeah,
things
yeah, and
now
we're treating a
because
lot more of them, and we're, prolonging the life of dogs with heart valve disease or whatever it is, longer and better than we did before. But I would imagine most of those things were present, say 3 decades ago.
yeah, and it's almost like the consciousness, the awareness that people have with their dogs, from just as something in behavior, it's like dogs used to live outside 30 years ago. Now they live inside, so we pay a little bit more attention to everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you guys probably aren't quite as old as me, but like, I mean, you've seen how, I mean, so many people like our age, like people aren't having kids, like their
yeah,
dogs are their babies, like they're putting, like,
yeah.
that's their family. I mean, even people with kids, the dog is part of the family, and they go through they'll do a lot more to keep those guys healthy these days
Yeah.
compared to when we were kids.
100%.
On that note of dog is their baby, because you are 100% right. Like that
Right.
is the biggest change in our world is it's like, ooh, we are treating this killer in our house like it's a
Yeah.
toddler, you know, like
Yeah.
it's a stuffed animal. One thing that Brent probably sees it all the time, and I see it all the time is, you know, I see a lot of dogs that are working dogs that are on some sort of medication.
Mhm.
And, you know, I put a post up a while ago, doctor, about, you know, why are so many dogs prescribed? And I had a lot of veterinarians and a lot of vet techs reach out and they said, you have no idea how many people are coming into the office asking and demanding for medication for their dog. And we're telling them, listen, you have a 1.5-year-old dog who is high energy, who you're not doing enough with. I want to kind of give you a few minutes to walk me through and tell me about like what is happening out there that you're seeing from your perspective that can enlighten me.
In regards to medically managing, like, behavioral issues
Yeah,
or the
or
training with it? Yeah, I mean,
yeah, even beyond
yeah.
behavior issues, just dogs that are full of piss and vinegar, working breed dogs. Do you see a lot of dog owners who are like, "Hey, I need this dog on medication," et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely see a fair bit of that. That's definitely there. You know, I mean, a lot of those dogs, they're not in an ideal home per se. I mean, it sounds like you've got a great setup, you know, Vinny, and really both you guys. I mean, you guys both live on or near properties where these guys get to run, they get to exercise, they get those endorphins out and get all that work done and feel good about their day. And they're just going to be happier kiddos at home. They're not going to chew through the couch or the wall or, you know, be sketchy or all that stuff. They're just going to be better guys and gals. So yeah, we see a fair bit of it. And honestly, like as a vet, I'm not overly conservative about prescribing it, but I do take it very situationally. And I try not to prescribe it if we can help it. Right. And then there's some dogs where it's like, man, this is definitely the move. Like, even if we are going to work on the training, maybe we'll get them off this medication down the road if it's like for a behavioral sort of a situation. But for now, like one of my big priorities is just like safety and liability and things like that. And it's not that because it's going to be on me, it's going to be on those owners. I just don't want them in a position where they have the dog that might bite somebody in the house or bite a little, you know, kid that comes over or somebody on the street or attack another dog or whatever it is. I treat that as like something that needs to be addressed, and we need to do everything we can to prevent that from happening if we feel that it's a real risk as soon as possible.
Yeah. I'm sure there's old school vets that I've worked with. You're more new school, so that makes a lot more sense. It's like in collaboration with behavior training, use your medications.
Yeah, and it's situational too, like the lifestyle of the
Yeah.
dog, the owners, what's realistic for them, what the dog's going to have access to, like all those things are a factor. Yeah, that sounds, you know, cliche or whatever, but like a holistic approach. Like you want to take all these things in consideration for each patient, and it just depends from one patient to another, and their lifestyle and how severe the
Yeah.
behavioral issues are. But
Well,
yeah, behavior is like, I honestly, I do wish one thing we were talking about earlier, especially in the context of this podcast. I wish more people would pursue training, and whether it's with like, you know, qualified experienced trainers like you guys or board certified veterinary, you know, behaviorists like that. Dogs are so smart. Like what I was saying earlier, people don't realize how intelligent they are. We can teach dogs a lot of things. We can reward a lot of behaviors and discourage a lot of behaviors without medicine. I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but honestly, they can learn things pretty quick. They can
Yeah.
learn a desired behavior like often the first time.
so fast.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something you know, that more people could probably take advantage of and get, you know, have a better pet and give their dog a happier, you know, life as well.
No, 100%. It's a very balanced way to approach dog owners, very holistic, as you said. We've dealt with good vets, we've dealt with bad vets. You have such a well-rounded perspective, at least on like the domesticated pet world. I know you work a lot with wild animals as well. What allows you to be balanced in that perspective?
Just exposure, just seeing more experience is a huge part of it, obviously. Yeah, I mean, the wildlife humbles you too. It's funny, like working with more wildlife, it reminds you what animals are capable of. And so people forget, like dogs are domesticated. They're truly domesticated, actually. Also, they are like related to wolves, and what they can be capable of in terms of being a dangerous animal is very real. And you don't have to, you know, work with wolves or work with wildlife to be aware of that as a veterinarian. All it takes is one bad bite from, you know, just a big enough dog to do so. Because most of the bites we get are small dogs, and they don't really mess you up too bad generally. You know, for all those dogs that have a bad reputation, you know, we're getting bit 1,000 times more by the little chihuahuas and those little idiots. You know, that can't really do much. And I say that lovingly, idiots. I love those little guys.
Yeah,
My last
yeah,
dog
I
was a
have
We
one.
chihuahua,
say
obviously.
we
Yeah,
say fuck, but we totally get what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting the perspective that certain professionals who like you grew up in Kansas, correct?
Hmm.
Okay, grew up in Kansas. You had like a big property. Dogs were there. Like you've
We like
seen
suburban kind
suburbs.
of. It was
Okay,
yeah, not too crazy different from like what you saw. You've been to my last place, Brent. The new place is like that, pretty much more or less too. Yeah,
cool. But you've seen kind of the range of dog ownership: inside dogs, outside
yeah.
dogs, working dogs. That
Anti-poaching dogs, yeah, all of them.
100%.
Law
So
enforcement,
That's so cool.
you've seen
yeah,
it all. So
yeah.
you have such a broad perspective on how dogs are. And so does Vinny, and so do I. And it's I wish I could teach that to everyone. I wish everyone could be
Yeah.
exposed to that, because it would help kind of bring just bring more balance to some of the choices and decisions that we make. Because we always talk about it on the podcast. 30 years ago, dogs lived a different life, for better or worse. But we start seeing, on a behavioral standpoint, when dogs moved inside, like we took away their enrichment, we took away their natural desire to be territorial, like we took away their ability to channel that, and we want them to now be house pets. And so we kind of see this kind of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with certain
That's a
dogs.
good point, man. I didn't
Certain,
honestly even think about that a lot, but I totally see what you're saying. Even like what I was saying earlier about, people getting the wrong pet for their lifestyle, or, getting a pet that doesn't make sense. Like, we see a lot of huskies in LA. What do
I
huskies
have
do in
I have
LA,
two
man?
right here. There's one right there.
Yeah.
One right
Yeah. I mean,
there.
yeah, not to give you a hard time. And I
Yeah,
know how you
no, but
get your
these
dogs
ones
more or
stay
less, but
inside. Yeah, we used to stay inside.
yeah, I mean, they have to, man. They have to. I mean, they do have that double coat. They can deal with heat, like where they live. It also gets hot. It's not like they can't deal with that. And it's not something that my biggest gripe wouldn't be that. I'd be more concerned with like people that do live in, say, a city lifestyle and they want to get nausea. And you see that. It's like, dude, don't get that. Don't get the Jack Russell Terrier. Don't get a Shepherd. Don't
But
like.
it's
There's
cute,
a lot of
Dr.
breeds like
Evan. It's
don't
cute
get.
though. It's so
Yes.
They're
cute.
beautiful. They're great dogs. They've got great personalities. They've got great, they're on paper, like they seem like an awesome fit. But yeah, no, that is a good point, because we are like kind of also what I was saying, like the anthropomorphizing. We want this little family member that lives this domesticated little, life that we live in our homes and sit on the couch with us and sleep in our bed with us. And those are good points to bring up about they're not actually getting to do as much of that wild side, like
And
what
it's
they
just simply
instinctually
because
want to do.
we brought them on another side of a wall. That's it.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's
Yeah.
been so much intervention. I don't know if it's me, or I don't know if it's happening in Pittsburgh, Vinny, but Doc, you're in LA. So for some reason, the last 6 months, people have been trying to rehome dogs left and right.
It's out of control.
Everyone and their
Really?
mom. Yes, we're just noticing like calls. Like, we're a dog training facility. Why are you calling me to rehome a dog? Like, it doesn't
I
make
have a
any.
guess.
Yeah. So well, I'd love to know that.
Yeah.
So pin that, because I want to know that. But I've had to do so much intervention of my square peg isn't fitting in my round hole, meaning, I waited until 1 month before my wife gives birth to do training, but my dogs have had behavioral issues forever. Or now my kid is 3 years old and my Aussie, who I've never trained, is nipping at my kid. And so people are saying all these things where it's like, we have to intervene. And the interesting thing is the amount of dogs in the last 6 months that I've been able to remind people. It's almost like culturally we have amnesia with dogs. Like, you remember dogs used to live outside, right? So there are people who have houses, properties, beautiful land, and they go, I'm going to have to get rid of the dog. The dog just bit my 2-year-old. And I go, or we can build them a dog run on the side of the house, right? And one of them is going to be like, oh, interesting. And then one of the parents is going to be like, no way, he can't be outside. And I was like, rehome and euthanasia or dog run, and kind of understanding like there are better management systems, or putting the crate training the dog, or putting a baby gate up in the hallway, doing something where we can buy the dog time, number one, so that we can train better behaviors and more stress resilience to this kid. And on that same note, it's like the amount of people who, when we did teach them, maybe let the dog spend a little bit more time outside, the dog actually bloomed. The dog actually had a good time. So it's an interesting form of intervention, but I just wanted to kind of get your opinion on two things. First, I want to talk about what you said. Like, I think I know why people are rehoming dogs.
I mean, I can't say why for sure. Like the last 6 months it's gone so much higher. I mean, one thing that I think we all could have predicted is what happened shortly after COVID.
COVID.
A lot of people I mean, the shelters, the rescues, they're getting emptied, and everybody's getting their dog. So it was like we could have predicted, okay, over the next few years, we're going to see this high relinquishing rate. But I can't. So why would that be the last 6 months?
It's been progressively getting worse, and now they're at the point where almost all rescues and shelters are so full that there is no other solution. Right, and it's been
I mean,
this steady trend since COVID. There's no doubt. Right, there's
yeah, I
no
mean, those
doubt.
dogs are getting older. Like those dogs that got rescued, they were
Uh-huh.
young,
5 and
and we're
6 now.
talking like
Yeah.
2020, maybe 2021. That was like they were just all finding homes. It's 2026 now. So they're getting these dogs, they're anywhere from say 1 to 4 years old. And now they're, 6 to 10, something like that. And then once you get to that, especially closer to 10, 8, 9, 10 and beyond, we're starting to see more health issues. And so actually it kind of does make sense that it might only increase and stay that way for the next few years because all those dogs that found homes that were probably on the younger side, they're continuing to get sick or for whatever reason, or they're getting grumpy. And I mean, that can change their behavior too. And of course,
A health
obviously it can,
issue. Yeah.
we're talking about their overall health, but yeah, when a dog's sick or say they got some other underlying, metabolic disease, whatever, that can change their behavior. That can make them less patient with the little kids. That can make them seem more dangerous or more, like they got to go. So, yeah, I guess I'm not shocked. I would imagine this is just going to continue for the next few years, unfortunately.
Till
Yeah,
it
there's
kind
been
of finds a homeostasis again.
Yeah, it's going to, exactly. That's why I think the next few years, and then, like what you said, hopefully, like rebalances more or less. So, your first question with dog owners, and I tell this especially to people with exotics, do your research before you get a pet. And a lot of people think, oh, cool, it's a dog. Everybody can take care of a dog. Dogs are easy. It's a dog. Now, do your research. Different breeds are different. Think about what their needs are. Think about the kind of space they need. Because I mentioned the exotics thing, because I'd say 50% or more of my appointments for exotics come down to people just simply being ignorant and not educating themselves on what is the correct diet or ambient humidity, or do they need UV light or whatever it is for these different exotic animals. And honestly, the same applies for every pet. Any new life you're taking on, or if getting a new house plant. I mean, if you're getting a new plant, like do your research, know how to take care of
Yeah.
the thing,
Yeah.
know how often it needs water, what kind of light it needs, all that kind of stuff. Like you will be more successful. That animal or plant, whatever, will be happier. And you'll have to intervene with a vet or, a botanist or whatever less if you're doing things right.
yeah, yeah, right,
Intervene
if
with
you're
a
not
botanist. I love that.
if you're not
Yeah.
gonna listen to Brent and I, guys, please listen to Dr. Evan because we preach the same thing all the time is you gotta know what is the right dog for where you live, how you live, what your lifestyle is, because it does really get rid of a lot of your problems if you match it right. Right? Just because a dog
That's
is
really
cute
well
doesn't mean
said.
yeah, we shouldn't be swiping on it's not a Tinder date, right? We're not looking at the what the dog looks like. Does that look right for me? You gotta look at, okay, what was this dog initially bred for, and does that make sense for my lifestyle? And if it doesn't add up, you're gonna be screwed. And I don't care if you guys listen to me or if you listen to Brent, but he's a doctor, so you're forced to listen to him.
You have to.
Yeah.
Doctor's orders. No, it's
Yeah.
just something we see from experience. I mean, it's common sense, and you guys know it just from so much experience too. And you guys have a world of experience. That's just the reality of it. And just like what you were saying, Vinny, with the breed, I mean, another thing too, if possible, go meet that dog. Go spend time with it. Even with certain breeds, I mean, some German Shepherds are total couch potato teddy bears. Others need to work. And if they don't work, they're going to eat your house and possibly, be a problem for the people in it too, or the visitors. So meet the individuals.
I want to touch on one more thing that you just mentioned, Doc, because this is my ignorance as a younger trainer throughout my first 5, 6 years. It's definitely changed now, but when I see a dog pick up a behavior issue out of nowhere, I now start to go, hey, not only are we going to start training, but we need to immediately go to the vet. Right? Like, how many times does that dog who we talked about this at the beginning where dogs will show they're very strong, right? And they don't show pain the same way that we show pain. And there can always be this underlying issue. And I assume that you see this all the time, Doc, where you go, oh, dude, there's something wrong, right? And we can address this. And then we see the behavior actually get better just because we address the issue. But I wish more people would be quicker to pull the trigger on bringing their dog to you in the first place.
Yeah, no, it's a common thing. And it might be something that we can address. It might be something we can address, but we can be aware of it and then work around it. For example, older dogs, they lose some of their sight and hearing, just like people do as they get older. And when they can't hear as well, they might be more jumpy and they might not hear you coming. And that might therefore make them more snappy, especially if they have other underlying disease going on where they just don't feel their best self or whatever, whatever's affecting them in that way. It's good to bring them to the vet. We can evaluate them. We can see, okay, is there an underlying issue? Is there something that would explain this, whether it's their senses or their health or a combination of things, or they're arthritic, they're sore, they want to play the same way. It hurts when you try to pick them up. They don't want to get up. Maybe they'd run away when the kids approach them if they're arthritic, and now they're not. And because it hurts, it's just too uncomfortable to get up. So now they're just going to start biting them. You know what I
Just
mean? And those are
yeah,
things we can maybe mitigate and get them feeling more comfortable.
yeah. Just 3 weeks ago, I had a client who they were ready to euthanize their dog. They just adopted a dog from the shelter. The dog snapped in one situation where they were like moving the dog, and then a daughter was cuddling with the dog. The daughter shifted up on the dog to like cuddle him more, and then luckily she didn't. She had like some scrapes, no punctures, but they were just like,
Thank goodness.
this
Okay.
dog is dangerous. And the daughter was like,
Yeah.
she's like 14 years old, so she's bigger.
Yeah.
And one of the, they're concerned. They're like, this dog's dangerous. We got to get rid of this dog. It's unpredictable. And I was listening to kind of the patterns of how all of these issues happened. And I said, send me some videos of how she's walking. Send me some videos of how her gait. And I was like, this dog is in pain. I can just tell. I said, take him to the vet. Take it to the vet. The dog has arthritis in all of the cervicals, and like almost some fused discs, and like
Yeah.
in their hips and all this stuff. The vet comes out and she's crying and she goes, "Oh my God, thank you so much for bringing her in because she's in so much pain."
Mm,
And that, to what Vinny said, like, I didn't know that when I was a younger trainer, but if it
Mhm.
wasn't
right.
for, all the research and all the great vets that I've had a chance to work with, to know that if a dog is showing aggression or behavioral, if we got to cancel out health, we got to
Yeah.
cancel out health because it will,
Rule it out.
rule it out because
Yeah.
legitimately it can save a dog's life. So now that dog is on gabapentin and there's another one, I forget what, a tramadol.
Maybe some NSAIDs, carprofen, or something
Yeah,
like that.
carprofen.
Yeah.
And now the dog is fine. No aggression in the last 2 weeks. So
No,
it's
I'm so happy to hear
yeah.
that, man. That's incredible. Yeah. And I mean, dogs in general, they're not. Most dogs love people and they want to please their people and their family. They're not trying to be snappy. So, yeah, I mean, just to reiterate kind of what we're saying, rule out health stuff. That goes a long way. And I'm sure you guys do that just with just as trainers too. Like we were talking about being holistic and, accommodating to that specific patient. That's something you guys are, being mindful of too, which is really important with their training. And you're going to be more effective at, things are going to be more effective at learning when they're not in constant pain or ill. You can learn better when you don't feel like shit, basically.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, yeah,
great
way better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I want to switch subjects real quick because there's a subject as dog trainers, also as
Yes.
service providers, the subject of spay and neuter, because I've been training now almost 20 years. And so I went from, adopt, don't shop, neuter dogs at 8 weeks old, all the way to now 2026, where it's like,
Yeah.
wait a year and a half. And then can you kind of guide us through the science, what changed culturally, like guide us through how one of our audience members can help make sense of this, what seems like opposite information, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, they kinda do contradict themselves in a way. Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say, since we were kids and since then, basically, spay, neuter everything. Like, for sure, just do it. Unplanned litters, unwanted litters, or whatever you wanna call it, like, the more we can reduce that, the less suffering we have with those animals, and that there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of value in spaying and neutering, but I do take, again, kind of an approach of, like, what's the big picture here? What is this animal's lifestyle? Who are they gonna be in contact with? What is their behavior like? So when it comes to spaying and neutering, okay, the bigger there's kind of a correlation with making that choice to begin with, whether or not we're going to do it. There's kind of a correlation with the size of the dog, the size and the weight, right? The bigger the dog, the more inclined I might say, be inclined to say, hey, let's talk about benefits of not neutering or spaying because this can really improve their quality of life. And I have some stipulations with that. So for like with these big guys, especially Danes, like we didn't neuter Kainu, did we?
Nope. He had him.
Yeah,
He had
yeah,
him.
that's what I thought. Yeah, and I told Christina that, and she asked me. I was like, "Listen, here's the thing, and here's my stipulations for like male dogs, for example. Are they jumping the fence looking for girlfriends? Like, are they going to put themselves in danger? Are they going to get hit by a car, get in encounters with other dogs, feral dogs, wildlife, whatever? Cool. No, good. Okay, great. Are they peeing on everything in the house? Are they like marking just like all over the place? No, great. Are they aggressive towards other dogs or people? No, great. Yeah.
Okay,
Anyway, I might be
that's
forgetting one, but basically, yeah. What's that?
Like possessiveness? Like, we get a call every week of a
Yeah,
male
food
dog.
aggression, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Even
Yeah, if they're
possessing a
gentlemen.
female of the family, like a human
But
female.
yeah, of course, yeah, no,
We see that all the
that's another huge, huge one. Are you gonna have another intact female there, right? Are they gonna be are they gonna be in contact with any intact females? That's a very, very big one, obviously. We're talking about spaying and neuter. But yeah, all if they qualify those things and they're a giant breed dog. So the dog we're referencing, Vinny, is this big. If I don't know if you met Kaine
time.
or
Yeah,
heard
he
of
needs
Kaine, but
to
he was a big Great Dane. He's a
yeah.
huge giant breed dog. We decided not neutering him. This is actually going to be in his best interest. And just as from a veterinary perspective, you see a 10-year-old Dane, which you don't get to see very often. But let's start with let's say Mastiff. They can more commonly live to 10 years old. You see a 10-year-old Mastiff that got neutered, even if it was say a year and a half or 2 years, versus a 10-year-old intact Mastiff. We're looking at two different animals. The 10-year-old neutered guy, he's overweight. He is every step is kind of tough, so slow to get up, so slow to sit down, low muscle mass, increased fat, lower activity, just life looks tough. And then you see the intact guy and you're like, oh, dude, he gets around. His body weight's good. Like he looks good. He seems comfortable. I mean, when you neuter a dog, you do this kind of double edged sword where it's just a recipe for gaining weight because you slow down the metabolism and you increase the appetite. So we want to eat more and our resting metabolic rate is actually lower. So it's this recipe for getting overweight. And when they're intact, their muscles are going to develop more and better. They're gonna heal fast. Like all that, just like when people
Yeah.
do testosterone, it's the same thing. Like with our dog, it's not the exact same thing, but there's a lot of parallels. It's pretty darn similar, and it's a big difference when we see these older guys. So I know I'm kind of giving you like kind of diving into it here and a
That's
big
great.
explanation,
Keep
but
going. Keep
yeah,
going. Love it.
yeah, it really depends on the individual, and those are those kind of stipulations there. Sorry, Vinny, were you trying to
No,
say something
yeah,
there?
dude, I gotta tell you, I've never actually heard a veterinary say that before, and I respect the hell out of you for saying that because I don't know if you
Well,
take
thanks, man.
heat for saying something like that. Because
No, I mean,
once again,
these days, not as much. Like 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit more. I've been a vet for like 13 years now. I mean, listen, when I was through school and like growing up, I mean, you guys were, similar enough generation and whatnot with that. Like it was spay neuter, no question, right?
yes,
And like times have changed. And so I've seen enough of those patients as a vet to say, you know what? I don't know if that's in the best interest of this guy. And so for even from all my large breed patients, if I'm seeing them as puppies and we're talking about it's a lab or a German Shepherd or whatever, I mean, I'm definitely having this chat with them and talking about, okay, what's this dog's lifestyle going to be like? We kind of, monitor them as they grow up. Are they being aggressive? Are they peeing on stuff? Are they jumping the fence? That the stuff I talked about earlier. If these are good boys and they're not at risk for these other things, which are not worth it, it's not worth getting hit by a car or something. I'd rather you just be neutered. We'll do our best to keep your weight healthy and whatnot. But if their lifestyle accommodates to it, there's a lot of value in not neutering. I mean, listen,
yeah,
yeah, you're prone
yeah,
to testicular disease, prostatic disease. There's other things that are benefits of neutering. Obviously, it's not just that we're, preventing, unplanned litters or pregnancies or whatever. But yeah, it depends on the dog. And, more vets these days for sure are feeling that way and saying that. And honestly, if a vet or a professional in this space disagrees with me, I don't have a problem with it at all. Like I can sleep good at night
Mhm.
talking
yeah.
about having this discussion with pet owners because a lot of dogs, you just see these old guys when they're neutered. It's rough, dude. And if we can make them healthier and happier, it's like, it's a nice thing.
Yeah, Mastiffs in Newfoundlands are my breed of choice. Like I
Right
have
on.
another Mastiff. I had a Mastiff beforehand, and my first Mastiff 14 years ago, I was advised at 6 months that we should get him neutered, right? And I did that,
Yeah.
and he made it to 10 and a half. He was a great dog, saved my life, the greatest dog in the world. You could see how old he got when he got old, right? And I always question of like, I wonder if I didn't listen to that advice, would he have a different life? And I have a new Mastiff now that I adopted who, dude, this is going to sound crazy, right? This bothers to my core. I rescued him and he was neutered at 8 weeks. And
Yeah.
I do everything that I possibly can to make sure, like I give him the best possible life. But I know there's a good chance that his life is hindered from that one decision, right?
I mean, Vinny, listen, the best thing you can do is just keep them a healthy weight, especially those giant breeds. I mean, this goes for, intact dogs too, obviously. It's a lot easier when they're intact because they just are going to keep that muscle better and they're just not going to eat as much and so on. But the best thing you can do is that for these big guys. And listen, I've had a couple of patients over the years where we do like a TRT kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
I listened to a Huberman podcast where they talked about giving a dog TRT, and I was blown out of my mind that that was an option. So there will be a day I look more into that. I don't want to, have you go down this rabbit hole of this one thing, but I really appreciate you bringing that up. But that is an option that people have, is to
It's
give.
not a common thing, but it's one like, and I don't see a lot of vets doing it. But I've explored it with a few patients. One of them was an older, big guy. He was overweight, but he was like a big lab mix, and he had a blown ACL. The owners couldn't afford doing the cruciate surgery. We got them a custom, actually really cool a product and brand called Orthopets. Anyways, long story short, he just needed some help, and he was had just losing muscle mass and gaining weight, and we just wanted to make life a little bit easier for him. So we tried that, and I think it helped a little bit. Like I don't have a lot of patients I've done this with, so I can't say from like a crazy amount of experience with it, but I'm super open to it, and I think for some pets, it's worth having a discussion about it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
What about the vasectomy thing I've been hearing stuff about, canine vasectomies? Have you heard about this?
Yeah, that's probably becoming more and more popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, honestly, especially if they're good in all those other stipulations I talked about, but they could be around intact bitches, then like that might be something worth considering. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, I like it.
With the females, it's kind of when they don't have those hormones, it's the same kind of things you got to worry about down the road. Of course, there's not like a vasectomy option for females. Like there is this ovarian sparing spay technique. I forget what they call it, but I've looked into it, and it's kind of just not recommended. There's real health risks that go along with that, even potentially after the fact, especially if she is around like a male and she had this procedure, there risk of some nasty abdominal infections, essentially. So it's not something we really do. Long story short, there's not like an ovarian sparing thing that eliminates them being able to get pregnant. And obviously, removing the uterus, there's a lot of diseases that can happen with the uterus, a lot more than with testicles. And so those are things to keep in mind. And one of the benefits of spaying, the females, they generally don't get quite as big, but yeah, we're going to see the arthritis. We're going to see the same issues. To me, it's a little more complicated actually with the females than the males. They seem more straightforward, honestly, because of the pros and con balance is different in females than males. But yeah, if you can keep them intact, great. If you can live with them, going through their cycles and everything and work with that. And I mean, for most dogs, it's not that big of a deal. They kind of clean up after themselves. They don't, they got it figured out and it's all good. If they're not around intact males, it's something I'm definitely open to. But it's you have to have a little bit deeper discussion and kind of weigh out those pros and cons. You have to be aware of things like pyometra. There are uterine, cancers as well, ovarian cancers, things that, we have to be mindful of that they can happen. And when they're in mammary cancers as well. I mean, one of the biggest benefits of spaying, if you spay before the first heat, yeah, like they're not going to develop the same way. But one of the legitimate big benefits is you make it 99% less likely they get mammary cancer. And that's
Yeah,
not a rare,
I had
like
a
a
dog
super
pass
rare
from
cancer.
I had a dog pass from that when I was
Was
younger.
it intact?
An intact female, my cattle dog.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I've
yeah.
never seen it, and anytime I've seen it, it's mostly in intact females. And if I've seen it elsewhere, it's dogs that got spayed later in life.
Yeah.
If you spay before the second heat, it's reduced. They have like maybe a 25% chance compared to other dogs. After that second heat, it just starts kind of like tapering down. But yeah, that's one of the big benefits. So yeah, like I said, a little bit more complicated discussion. The pros and cons, the weight of that is a little bit different. But it's like a discussion you should have, especially with these large and giant breed, especially
Yeah.
giant breed dogs.
So what would be like the three, like two or three things? So it's behavior is as a metric you want to see. Is this going to benefit the dog or not benefit the dog? Health wise, like size, would you say, like potential health?
Health, I think, is the big thing because they're just going to be so much better off. They're going to be so much more comfortable in general if they're intact. And then, yeah, they're like their lifestyle. Are they going to be around other intact dogs where we're going to have unplanned, litters? And for most people, that's a game I don't recommend going down. Like, I mean, this is something I hear all the time is, oh yeah, we got this dog and they bought, they paid for, they bought some breed. We want a breeder. If the breeder they bought it from would allow them, or they somehow come across some other pure breed they want to breed. And I'm just constantly telling people, like, don't do it. It's not worth it. Like, even if you come out on top economically, like, there's a good chance you won't, especially if it's your first time and you're not experienced with it. Like, it's not a big money game even for the experienced breeders that really know what they're doing. Like, don't do it. It's just, it could cost you a lot of money or a lot of sadness or both.
I appreciate that, because that is, Brent, I assume you feel the same way. It's like, just don't. Please don't.
Yeah.
Please.
Nobody wins. You're not winning. Those dogs aren't winning. The parents you're breeding aren't winning. The puppies, I know, Yeah,
I
don't
just
do it.
want him
It's
to
not
be a
worth it.
dad. I just want him to be a
Yeah,
mom.
that
No.
sentiment.
I want to have the babies and this and that. And like for some people that works, but they're usually more experienced or they've done that before. Like, don't get into that game, especially if you've not done it before, don't know what you're doing. Like you're making a mistake.
So, Dr. Evan, as dog trainers, we hear a lot of veterinarians recommend, not to take your dog out of the house, not to take them into public spaces until the dog is fully vaccinated with their distemper and their parvo shots and everything. Could you educate me a little bit about like the modern science on that, and like the actual risk of it? And then also, are there any healthy or safe ways to do that socialization if there are risks?
Okay, so what you say the 16-week thing. So that's actually changed to 17 to 18 weeks actually.
Wow.
And so that's been the case for maybe the last 5, 10 years, something like that, 5 years at least. It's all about maternal immunity or maternal antibody, right? So the vaccine you're talking about, what we're referencing, okay, don't let your dog essentially be exposed to any other dogs or any other surfaces or anything until they're fully vaccinated. That's that key phrase, fully vaccinated. The vaccine we're referencing is called DHPP. That's distemper, parvo, parainfluenza, and hepatitis, otherwise known as adenovirus, right? And that's your canine core vaccine. Sometimes they have lepto in there too. And this is something we're starting, around 6 to 8 weeks roughly, and then we give it every 3 to 4 weeks through 18 weeks. The reason we have to keep giving it is because it goes back to what I mentioned a second ago: maternal immunity, maternal antibody. When puppies are born, they've got a little hard drive of their mom's immune system essentially, and that interferes with the vaccine that we give. We don't want to interfere with maternal immunity. It's a super, super important good thing. And that's in a lot of different animals, one way or another. But when it comes to dogs and vaccinating them, when we start at that young age, we have to keep boosting it every 3 to 4 weeks because that maternal immunity is kind of affecting the efficacy or the workability of the vaccine that we had given. Once they get to that 17, 18 week mark, most of their maternal immunity is out of their system. And so when we give that last one, that last puppy booster and say, okay, you can socialize, you're good to go. That injection generally lasts, we do it again in 1 year, and then it's every 3 years. Some vets do a little bit differently, but that's a pretty common kind of theme right there. And then rabies legally now we can give it as young as 12 weeks these days in California. It might be different state to state, and most states require it if you want to register your dog. That's a whole other story. There's not a lot of rabies out here in the West, especially and amongst dogs and whatnot. Now, why do we say that as vets? Why do we say wait till they're fully vaccinated? One of the big ones, honestly, one of the big ones is probably parvo. Out of all those, I'd say parvo is the biggest offender. And there's a couple reasons. Number one is a vaccine does not fully protect you from getting parvo. Myself and most of my vet colleagues, especially if you've done any kind of emergency medicine, will tell you we've treated parvo positive dogs that were vaccinated as they should have been. So that can happen. Number two, especially with this parvo, that's a really durable little virus. It can live in the environment for up to 6 months. And so that's what scares a lot of, that's why a lot of vets are like, don't bring them to dog parks. Don't bring them to any intentionally dog social areas where the parvovirus might actually be in that little habitat or that little space. Those are kind of the big reasons. I mean, technically, yeah, like they can get all these other infections, the hepatitis, distemper, the parainfluenza. The vaccine doesn't 100% protect them against those either. But the parvo is the especially scary one because it can literally 6 months, man, 6 months on the street, on the
Crazy.
sidewalk, in the park or whatever, at another house, in a backyard, whatever. Like that thing can last a long time. Parvo is scary. It is treatable. These days, the prognosis is actually good if you got the budget to do it. Like some dogs, even with all the best, most intensive care, don't make it. It's not 100% success rate. But for those dogs that do, it can be pretty expensive. We have some newer meds that can actually help what it was even from compared to 10 years ago with immunotherapy kind of treatments. But it can be a real roller coaster where like it seems like they're getting better and then they tank again. And like I would say, like, yeah, like shoot, 5, 10 years ago, average length of stay for parvo pet at the hospital was like probably 5 to 7 days, if not more. And I had plenty that were over a week, like plenty. And now we're talking in the tens and tens of thousands. And with how expensive things are now, I mean, again, not to go in that whole off another tangent, but that's a scary one. That's why we say that. Now to answer the side of your question, is there a safe way to do it? I mean, a lot of vets are going to say pretty much no. I mean, listen, if you're in a new space that has not had a dog or a parvo positive dog that you can verify, and they're with other dogs that are vaccinated and definitely not sick or don't have anything, then like, yeah, probably it can be okay. And I'm sure vets will even like give me, some crap for saying that. And they'll be like, no, definitely never do it. And there's reasons for it and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I hear you, man. Like from the social perspective, it's so important to socialize them. We do want them around other dogs. I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with this, like at those younger stages, but like the first 6, 8 weeks of life, especially 6 weeks of life, is the most important critical social period, socializing period. When a puppy is not with their siblings, they have like serious social behavioral issues and they don't know how to interact. A lot of them don't know how to interact with other
Yeah,
dogs. And
like
it's like it's a
5 week
real
puppy
handicap.
syndrome. Yeah, that 5 week puppy syndrome where they don't learn certain basic social cues from their litter
Exactly.
mates. Yeah, yeah.
Huge handicap. I mean, it's not just dogs. Like one of my cats was a singleton. There was no other kittens in his litter. And we found him in an attic and he's been our cat ever since. And he's a good boy, but he's socially like he's different. Like,
Mhm.
not that I say this, like, respectfully, but almost like if there was some kind of, like, a spectrum or something you wanna call it, he would be, like, on that, like, he just doesn't understand social cues the same way
Right.
other cats do, and he just behaves differently, and, I think a lot of it has to do simply with the fact that he didn't have
Siblings,
those
yeah.
social bonds and those social interactions at those first month and a half of life.
So maybe it's easier to say, like, definitely don't go to dog parks. Definitely
Yeah.
don't go to sidewalks, right,
Even
where there's
walking your neighborhood,
grass.
yeah, like, we're
Yeah.
talking spaces where we know dogs have not been, and, I
Yes.
mean, other animals can carry parvo too, like, so I'd probably wanna do it in an indoor space to be on the if it was my
Okay.
puppy, if I was,
Yeah.
like, adamant about socializing, an indoor space where I know the people living there, they've been living there the whole time, they haven't had dogs come over, there's no parvo there, and they're
Mhm.
around other dogs that are vaccinated and are not actively shedding any kind of virus or kind of
Yeah,
illness,
or
and,
going to the
like, yeah,
dog parks.
probably you'll be okay,
Yeah.
you just have to be really mindful and, like, vet all the different things coming together. I mean, I've worked with so many dogs that didn't really do a lot of socializing beyond being in their litter,
Mhm.
but then go home and they live with, maybe alone, or maybe there's other dogs that live in the home and they don't experience any other dogs. And then they hit that 17, 18 week mark. They're getting socialized and they're totally fine. Like it's all good. Like they do a lot of social activity and I encourage it, like socialize them really, really people and dogs, expose them a ton
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
more equipped they're going to be to handle like crazy situations or stressful situations and the better they're going to be at socializing with other dogs and people.
Yeah, and even one of the things, if I have a young puppy who can't go outside and a client who wants to be active with them, we're teaching them to go on top of things, under things, to go find things. We're teaching them to use their body. We're teaching them to, in essence, like learn how to physically feel capable of doing certain things. So like, we'll see certain temperaments that are kind of like shy and shut down and defensive, and we have to train against that early on to help kind of
Yes.
develop that wiring where they want to
And
try.
thank you for that because that makes my life easier too as their vet.
And one of the things for social is the cooperative care, right? Like what are some advice that you might have for people listening who they just got a brand new puppy and they want to make sure that this dog does not have trauma at the vet, right? What are some things that you would suggest?
Yeah, it's all about the positive associations, right? I mean, that goes such a long way. So, with that in mind, I would say exercise your dog before the vet. That's going to run off a lot of their adrenaline or endorphins or whatever. They're going to be a lot calmer. I even tell young men this. I say, do leg day before you go on a first date. Get all that shit out of your system. Like you're going to just be a lot more confident, a lot more chill. Those nerves are going to be down. So, same thing with our dogs. Exercise them before the visit. Bring their favorite treats. Like if there's some treats where they don't get often and they really like them, like the really extra special treats, now's the time to pull out those big guns. Bring them to the vet, give them to the staff, and constantly reward this guy from the reception staff to the vet techs checking you in the rooms to the doctors coming in. Like keep these positive reinforcement activities going and make it so this when this dog comes here, especially this young puppy going to the vet for the first time, it's like, hey, this is cool. Like this is the kind of place I
Mhm,
want to be.
mhm,
Everybody's super cool. They give me this stuff like my favorite treats. Like life is good. With these puppies, a lot of times when they come to the vet, we're doing vaccines. Like that's a part of this
mhm,
first visit. That's what we're going to be
mhm,
doing, right? So something I
mhm.
do with most of my patients, but especially the puppies, is I pull out the chicken flavored baby food. It's
Oh,
easily
wow.
digestible by most dogs. They don't have issues with it. And for most dogs, I would say well over 90%, you put a tray of that in front of them, they're so stoked on it, they don't even
Yeah.
notice the needle. Because the vaccine needle's a small needle, like, it doesn't feel good, but they're so psyched on the food that they're not even paying attention to it, and I've, like, posted time after time again of me vaccinating puppies where I put the food in front of them, they don't even notice I give a vaccine, life's good, everything's fine, and so we can keep that experience positive because that's really the only thing we have to do that's, like, objectively gonna be kinda not fun. It's not a big deal, but it's not fun. Otherwise, we can make every other interaction a positive one.
That's great. That's great. And I think the key in training is repetition, right? Like it's like getting enough reps in where the dog can start generalizing. Because dogs, I heard a veterinary behaviorist say this once. Hey, dogs are really good at discriminating this versus that, but they're not really good at generalizing. so so
Yeah.
we gotta do a lot of work in order for generalization to exist, right? But one bad experience at the vet, they're gonna remember like, nope, never
Especially the
again.
first one.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Yeah,
they
like,
you
it's
literally,
super important for the whole staff to make this as positive as possible.
yeah.
A lot of people don't necessarily bring their dog in carriers, but some do, and it's a big thing with cats. I always say leave the carrier out, throw treats in there. If it's cats, throw catnip in there too. Like, make that a happy, positive place. Because if it's not a happy place and they've never seen the carrier, you grab them, find them, you stuff them in there, they're confused. We're off to a bad start, and you haven't even gotten in the car to go to the vet, let
Mhm.
alone be at the vet.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
things are
always
already bad. So, like, make that a happy
scary
place
on
too.
top of scary on top of scary. Yeah, you're just a scary sandwich. That's not good.
Exactly. No, it's all about positive associations. Just give them things they like and where they are associating with the people or the places that they're doing, and that will help them be happier in these situations, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that, man. So I want to kind of go into, are there any projects that you're working on coming up soon?
Yeah, man. No, I
Tell
appreciate
me
you
about
asking
it.
that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I am the chief medical officer for a new product called Wonder Dog. And so for you or your listeners, and if you guys have heard of something like Function Health, that kind of thing's become really popular. That's where people can order their own blood work and then they go to like a Quest lab or something and pursue those diagnostics. And they have a big menu of different blood work related lab work diagnostics they can pursue. Everything we do in the people world, I feel like, especially health related, it's going to
Mhm.
translate to the vet world. And me
100%.
and our team, we saw this as an opportunity to do this in the pet space. And the vet space is so reactive, right? We're always thinking like, we talked about this a little bit earlier about how, now they're sick, bring them to the vet.
Mhm.
We want to get ahead of things. We
Right.
want to start evaluating their health and catching things earlier before they get to that point where they're actually showing illness. And so what Wonder Dog is, it's kind of a twofold situation. We have an app. You put all your dog's medical records on there, all their history, everything from their diet to how much they're drinking, their activity, their breed, their age, everything, all the information you can put in the better. And that app's going to better customize a preventative health plan for your dog.
That's
And
amazing.
it's not just going on Google or ChatGPT and like, oh, my dog did this or did that. It's like, no, it has everything in mind for your pet, knows their previous history, the medications they're on or been on, the surgeries they've had or whatever, like everything. Put it on the app. It's going to help just
Is there
help you understand
AI?
your dog. And then
Is there
no, there's AI with the app. So then if you do have questions, you're asking this AI that's like custom fit for your dog,
But
right?
is the AI like reading all the reports and taking on all the
Oh, yeah,
data?
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
god,
yeah.
that's amazing.
Exactly. So it's really helpful
Wow.
for vets too, because we're going to have a section. I'm kind of engineering, like designing a category like tabs for the vets, so these people that have
Like
Wonder
an
Dog,
internal
they
use
can
in
bring it. Now the vet can see relevant information if they want to look at the whole chronology of things, or they want to look at previous diagnostics or surgeries or medications or anything, or have a summarized version to what's most likely relevant to their visit. They're going to have that. And like as a vet, I know I would love that. I hate looking through old vet records, and it just takes forever, and it's just kind of one of my least favorite things. And then the other side of Wonder Dog is in the efforts of being preventative. If you get Wonder Dog, you get 2 at-home blood draws, and it's a pretty comprehensive lab work. It's kind of like what we would call like a senior wellness panel plus some extras. So it has your biochemistry that's looking at liver values, kidney values, electrolytes, blood sugar, and many more things. Your CBC, which is a complete blood cell count. So it's like red blood cells, white blood cells, morphology of red cells, things like that. And there's a lot of different kinds of white blood cells too that it obviously accounts for. We're trying to get a UA in there, and there should be very, very soon because that's really important for evaluating
so
total health
urinary
and
analysis? Yeah.
thank you, Brent. Urinalysis, exactly. That's super critical for evaluating kidney health, and there's other things in there that can be helpful for diagnosing diabetes and things that can happen in the
Huge.
urine too. But yeah, of course, those things plus thyroid, which is looking at thyroid health, not uncommon in dogs. A pro BNP, which is helping us evaluate heart health. Fructosamine, which is kind of taking an average of our blood sugar over the last couple of weeks. I say our like dog's blood sugar over the last couple of weeks, so it kind of gives us some insight if we are worried about things like diabetes. And you get all that twice a year. Those blood draws twice a year for $600. And we're not trying to compete with vets.
Whoa.
I do not want to take away business from vets. Our goal with Wonder Dog, number one, is to help dogs live longer, healthier lives and catch things sooner, be preventative and not reactive. Another major goal of ours is we want more compliance with vets. If we're catching things in the blood work, or we're ruling out things, we say, okay, you know what? We need to pursue further workup. We want you to go see your vet. Let's start with a good physical exam. Wonder Dog doesn't do physical exams. Well, it's just vet technicians coming to your house. These aren't veterinarians. They just can draw blood. We want you going to see your vet, having a physical look at the dog. They might even order other diagnostics or have a conversation with you about, trial medication, whatever it is. We want that follow-up and people doing that. So it's all about the Wonder Dog thing is being more preventative and less reactive. The sooner we can catch things, the better. I mean, one example is SDMA. That's designed to detect kidney disease at roughly 25% degradation of the kidneys. Dogs
Wow.
not showing signs of kidney disease until they're like, closer to 2/3, maybe 3/4 damage has taken place. So if we can catch stuff like that early, like we can prolong the life of the kidneys, therefore the life of the dog. And that goes for a lot of other disease processes.
This is so innovative, and it's great to be in 2026 where we have the
I know,
tools
I love the
to
future,
to
right?
to build something like that. That's so cool. Anytime there are people who care and are creative, I know that there's a vision in mind. Like 20, 30 years from now, where do you think that this service could be? Like, what do you imagine it could turn into? Because can I tell you a quick little story about myself? I used to always be like, even for humans, I was like, how like in Star Trek, they just have like the bloop, bloop, like they just like scan your body and they see what's wrong with you. Like, I know we're probably like thousands of years away from that, but even with dogs, I'm like, why don't we do like full body scans and why don't we do blood work and see what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That was just a thought in my head. I was like, that'd be so efficient. Cause I was like, I would pay $3,000, $5,000 for that once a year versus having to react and then find out, oh shit, there's this big tumor or there's this big issue that's going to, you know what I mean?
No, I think what you said is kind of the right idea. And like in combination with what I was saying, like how what we do in the people space, we're doing in the pet space. There are new diagnostics, new scans you can get that can like really evaluate your tissues at a deep level and very thoroughly. And they're not cheap, but they're a means of like being able to catch things early. And I could totally see that being in the pet space in the next couple decades.
It
I
would,
mean, I think ones we're seeing actually, Brent, and then we're going to have more of is like a lot of the cancer markers. We don't have as many cancer markers in the blood as we do in our pets. We can diagnose a lot of different cancers, but usually we need some kind of imaging or something else, or we need a tissue sample. Whereas I believe I'm not a human doctor, medical doctor. I'm just, as far as I understand, there's a lot more markers in the blood to detect a lot more cancers. As time goes on, we're going to have more and more of those in the pet space. And I bet in 20 years, we're going to have way more. Like right now, there's early tech on a couple of the really common cancers like lymphoma and hemangiosarcoma, right? And I think in 20 years, that list will be longer.
yeah. It's funny. You said there's a part of my brain, especially working with animals, that kind of gives a lot more respect to veterinarians than some MDs personally. In my own opinion, there was this old joke I heard a long time ago where it was like, what do you call a veterinarian who only works on one species? And this old man was telling it. And we're like, what? He goes, an MD. And that was the whole punchline. And even when from a behavioral standpoint, like a lot of the stuff we learn about human behavior is what we've learned with animals. And like by studying animals and the mammalian brain and all that stuff. And so it's like in a way, like not being an MD is probably giving you a perspective that MDs maybe should have because they
In
don't.
some ways, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah. There's definitely pros and cons to both sides of being more generalized. Like, I'm especially generalized. I work with anything from rhino to chameleons to dogs and cats. I'm like an okay vet for all these different species. I joke like I can like work on everything, and I'm not the best at any of them. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Jack of all trades kind
Because
of thing.
yeah, because I like working with so many different animals. There's not enough hours in the day for me to be like the best this or that. But I'm like, yeah, it is really interesting and gives you good perspective. And and it's cool too when I work with different vets because I have different perspective, with different species, different parts of the world. We can really collaborate and talk about some new things or different ways of looking at things when we're working with certain species or whatnot. But yeah, it's a fun world, man. It's definitely different.
Very cool, man. And we've kind of been acquaintances for the last couple of years through Kainu, our mutual client. This is actually this is the longest conversation we've actually ever had, which is amazing. So I appreciate us sitting
I'm a
down.
blabbermouth, man.
No, I love it because we're
That's
nerds.
great.
We're nerds of our field, and I know
Yeah.
Vinnie is a nerd as well. And I'm 38. and he's 35, and so we're all roughly peers in the dog industry, and we've all been doing what we're doing for double digits of years. So
Yeah.
I think we want to see, as millennials, like we want to see a change, and like we really love it. Like we're the generation of Homeward Bound, and like Beethoven, and like we love
Totally,
dogs.
man.
We love
Throwbacks.
dogs
Yeah,
kind of different than our previous generation, and even
definitely.
different than the Z's. So I think we really want to see the livelihood of dogs really shift and change. I'm super excited for the new app and the new service that you guys are coming out with.
Wonder
Um,
Dog.
Wonder Dog. Yeah, you guys check it out. So where do they find it? They go to their app store. They they sign
Yeah,
up online.
wonderdoghealth.com.
Perfect.
Wonderdoghealth.com. That's the
And then
best place to just find it. Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah, I should
awesome.
have mentioned that earlier. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Everyone check that out. And then can they follow it on Instagram as well?
Yeah, Wonder Dog Health. Yeah, you'll see me tagged in. It's tagged in my link in my bio. My Instagram, by the way, is Dr. Evan Antin, Dr. period Evan Antin. And you'll find me and you'll see Wonder Dog tagged right up there too.
I think I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I'm going to sign my dogs up for it. I have 5 of them, so I would
Nice.
love to check it out. You were talking about some of those laboratories that do the blood work.
Yeah.
Do they have those in LA? Some of those laboratories?
Yes, the LA is one of the big cities.
All right, Dr. Evan, I got a list of questions I want to run by you. We're kind of reaching the tail end of our interview. You ready for some questions?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. All right, this one actually kind of hits home, but here we go. When owners lose a dog, what are the things they most often wish they had done sooner?
From the veterinary perspective, one of the most common ones I see is they regret not making that decision sooner. So say we have a dog that has terminal disease. We know where it's going and it's one direction. It's not the good one. And it's only getting worse from here. And their quality of life is already impacted, significantly enough. I'm trying to encourage them to make this decision for their dog with with nothing but the best interest for the dog. That's it. That's the only thing that is motivating this decision. Do this as soon as you're ready and sooner than you think, because you don't want to wait too long and do it later. Because as their quality of life continues to decline, it gets really ugly in the end. And my biggest goal is like avoid the real shit end. Like don't let them even experience a moment of that. They've been good to you their whole life. You don't need to let them live through that crap. So let's not let them get there. I mean, we did this with Kainu, right?
Yeah. And it was honestly one of the most beautiful. I hate to say that because it seems like an oxymoron, but like I've put down plenty of dogs in my life due to cancer, and I've waited way too long. And Kainu was probably the most beautiful, loving euthanasia I've ever been a part of. So yes, what you're saying is 100% true. I even started getting emotional before I asked the question.
No, I am
But,
too, man. I
but
feel
yeah,
it. We didn't do that very long ago, and
yeah,
I even kind of aside, like, yeah, dude, it's gonna hit your heartstrings every time. But I don't have any regrets about how we managed Kainu. We
no,
knew we had a good. We knew what was going on. We didn't
yeah,
know how extensive it was.
yeah,
Yeah, but it was already more than extensive enough for me to know where this is going. I don't want that poor guy to live through any of that shit. Let's enjoy it. Let's have a party. Let's have a nice time. And things aren't ideal, but man, they could just be so much worse. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen people they don't heed my advice, and I've really tried to spell it out for them, and they say you were right, and I'm so sad that I waited, and now we're doing it later, or they died at home, or whatever it is, and it just sucks, man. And I just try to we don't. There's no reason they don't need to experience that. We can make it so they never have to live through that crap. Yeah.
yeah. Great answer. Great freaking answer. All right, next question. If you could fast forward 20 years, what do you think today's dog owners will be shocked to learn we were doing wrong?
Less preventative care. That dental disease was so bad as frequently as it is. More dogs should be vaccinated. More dogs should be on preventative care. I think to encompass it, to be like that there was less preventative care. We're so much
Yeah.
more aggressive about preventative care in the human field with humans in general, in like developed countries like the US, it's not like that all the way around the world, but like in the US, for example, yeah, I think people will be surprised by preventative care and that will be different
Yeah,
in 20 years.
that'll be interesting. 30 years from now, they'll be like, you used to wait for the dog to get sick?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
actually a really great answer. All
Yeah.
right. Here's another one. What does suffering look like in dogs when it doesn't look like suffering?
If they're not as social as usual, if their appetite's declined, their overall energy's declined. I mean, dogs don't smile, but you can kind of see sadness in their face if you know your own dog. And some dogs more than others, but you can see that kind of a thing. But yeah, if they're not acting themselves, and they're especially the social thing, but really all those social activity level and appetite. Those are big ones, and they don't all scream like, "Hey, I'm in pain," but something's off, man. And those are your like three of your classic things to look for that could be associated with any kind of disease, from kidney disease to heart disease to arthritis. Like all those things, any illness to GI disease, like any illness can cause those things.
Great answer. Great answer. After seeing thousands of dogs, what pattern have you noticed that most owners never notice?
I guess just like the age, like the things that we see with age, and they don't realize like these things that creep up on them, like a slow progressive arthritis taking place, or the weight, their actual body weight. Those are things that it can vary from one dog to another, but those are things I've come to expect, and not everybody notices. But because it's slow, they don't notice it because it's not obvious from one day to the next. It's this very gradual thing, and they don't realize how advanced it is, and they come and see me, and it's not something I could have predicted because it's a 70-pound lab, or say 95-pound lab. He's a little overweight. He's
Right.
9 years old, 10 years old. Like I can see he's painful. I see how slow he is to get up. I see how he's moving around. You don't notice it because it's been a very gradual change day to day over the last, say, year and a half or 6 months or whatever it is. But yeah, I'd say things like that would be my best answer I could think of right now.
Great. Okay, here's another one. You've met dogs from every walk of life. Which dogs actually seem happiest?
Dogs can get a good amount of outdoor time is a pretty consistent cause of happiness. I've seen dogs live in the most simplest circle. Like some of the happiest dogs I met were with, I spent some time with the Hadza tribe or Hadza community, or otherwise also known as Hadzabi. This is in northern Tanzania. These are hunter gatherers. These are like they live the most, you could say primitive or most classic, whatever you want to call it, human
Hunter gatherer. Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Is
Nomadic.
hunter gatherer. I mean, that's what I mean. Yeah, they're not necessarily nomadic per se, but they every day they get their needs met by their hunting and gathering. They don't invest in the future. They don't worry about insurance. They don't worry like any of that stuff. It's a super simple life. Get what you need that day. They don't even farm anything. They literally just go out and hunt, and they gather, and they get what they need, and they have their little homes. They actually have dogs, and those dogs, they use the dogs to help with their hunting. Those dogs are happy. I mean, listen, they don't have I'm sure they've got some health issues. I'm sure they don't have as long of average lifespans, but while they're active and relatively healthy and, for the bulk of their life, like those are pretty happy dogs. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, dogs can get like get to be active and get that like outdoor time and activity time. Every dog pretty much needs that.
I love that. And I think that is probably one of the most, it's the truth. It is just the truth. And you can feel it in your gut. Like no
But
matter.
you guys clearly like that's something you
Yeah.
guys have talked about before, and
Yeah.
and see. And again, yeah, dogs aren't people. They love people, but they need other things too.
I think one of
Actually,
my,
people could get more outdoor time too. I would say that might be a happiness indicator in people as
well,
well, to be
and,
fair.
and that's well, that's one of the things, like one of my mantras is that like dogs are our last connection to nature. And over the
Yeah,
years, we've lost our connection to how things work. So it's like a
that's
dog.
I love that, Brent.
Thanks.
That's
Thanks.
so
We'll
real.
put it in a
No,
book.
that's
Uh,
1000% true.
and
That's so true.
it's my Doberman. He's not here right now. He's in the other room. But like my Doberman, he's the first guy to, like, if I'm on my phone for too long, he'll just fucking hit the phone out of my hand and be like, "Are you gonna walk me? Are you gonna take me out? Are we gonna go outside? Are we gonna do?" And All Might, I have 5 dogs, so if he's not bothering me, another dog. But it keeps you grounded in like the
Hmm.
present moment, right? And I think dogs are the remedy. They're the bridge to nature because we don't live with elephants and we don't live with tigers and lions and stuff like. And in essence, sometimes people might fear those things, But
Hmm.
this is like that animal that is the bridge, so that we don't lose that connection. And people who mistreat this connection, for me, it's like there's a little part of yourself that is dying a little bit, a little
It
bit.
is.
Yeah.
It is. No, we're losing touch, man. I couldn't agree more. You said that beautifully. I love that.
I believe. Thanks, man. What problems do dog owners bring dogs to veterinarians for that are actually human problems rather than dog problems?
Anxiety things aren't
Mm-hmm.
uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. This isn't quite the same as what you're saying, but like a lot of people think like excessive paw licking is just anxiety, and it can be, but usually there's something else going on. It's either allergies, maybe they have arthritis there or something. But yeah, they want to relate like it to people issues. But yeah, why do they bring them in? I mean, I've definitely seen that. I just can't think of one right now, dude. I've definitely seen people bring in dogs, and it's like we actually should have a chat about you and not with me. And we need to get you to go talk to your doctor, your therapist, or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, one of the things I say is like because dogs don't have a voice, people want to either be their voice or they just want to put words in their mouth.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and like I will see a client will be like, "Look how nervous my dog is," and the dog's like happy, and you're like, "What's going on in your lens here? Like something's off with your lens." So I'm
Yeah,
sure,
no, that's not untrue. I've seen that too, honestly.
yeah, but anxiety, I think, usually we'll see like dogs tend to match the nervous system of their caretaker. So if we see like a dog with ADD has an owner with ADD, a nervous, neurotic owner has a nervous, neurotic dog, right? And
1000% true.
yeah,
I see it
so
time and time again. That's very real. They take after their owners. The same thing, I get calm owners come in, pretty mellow dogs usually. You
mhm,
know, you don't see a spazzy dog with a calm person. Most like, if you see a spazzy dog, usually that owner's kind of a spaz.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. All right, just a couple more questions. If I followed you around for 6 months and observed every dog that reached 15, 16, 17 years old, what would I see those owners doing?
I mean, the reality is they're probably small breed dogs. So these are owners that like to buy small breeds, to be fair. Like that's the most common reason you see dogs reach that age.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've met so many dogs that get to that age, and the owners are not necessarily the most proactive towards this or that. But yeah, one of the best things you can do, honestly, is I mean, so much of it's genetics, just like human health. It's just genetics. It's out of our hands. But the best thing we can do, regardless of the genetics, is just being on top of that preventative care. That'd be the most effective thing you can do. And then, yeah, keeping them happy and where they're getting that outdoor time, they're socializing, all that, just all the things, the common sense things that are probably, I don't have like a better answer than that.
Okay.
Preventative care and common sense quality of life stuff goes a long way, actually.
Yeah, I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was talking about. He goes, when they pull up the fossils of our ancestors, the average fossil was around like 30 years old, right?
Mm,
The oldest ones that they found were like 30 years. And they said up around like 1880, those fossils were around 35, 37 years old. Right. And then he goes, now it's like we've doubled, almost tripled the lifespan. And that's kind of through the preventative care or having better medicine. So I can't
mm,
imagine like what's going to happen when we start doing a lot of preventative care with dogs. Who knows what happens with medicine?
hopefully.
Okay. What's a belief you held strongly as a young veterinarian that you no longer believe?
That's a really good question, man. Yeah. Something along the lines of like, I guess something I've learned, not necessarily like it's a super strong belief, but like some things just don't go by the book. And you can really get surprised by some of the cases you see and some of the, like, even with like health issues and disease processes. Like some things can just be inexplicable to a point that even leaving vet school surprises me. I don't know. You learn so much in vet school. You learn all these different pathologies. You think you can put a label or diagnosis on just about everything you see. There's some fluke weird zebras here and there, but yeah, those things happen, man. And that's something you learn with experience. And there's some patients and cases I still just can't wrap my head around. They just don't make sense.
One thing for me as a trainer was, thinking the idea that when I was a younger trainer, I thought our job was to make dogs subordinate to mankind.
Hmm.
And like they're animals that need to be told what to do and made what to do. And that was one of my early ideas, and so I learned, a lot of suppressive dog training when I first started. And now,
Mm,
20 years later, almost 20 years later, it's like how much more cooperation, how much more motivation, how much more love, how much more collaboration happens between you and the animal. And it's so interesting. Like I started when I was 18, and dogs helped me grow up, you know?
yeah, that's really cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
dogs
really
helped me grow
beautiful.
up.
Yeah, I mean, and it's proven too. The dogs are going to learn way better when there's a reward, not because of a punishment. When they're stressed and they're scared and they're getting punished, yeah, they'll learn things, but not nearly as effectively if they got a reward because of it. Just that whole approach, like the old school approach versus like what we're doing with more focusing on the positive reinforcement sort of thing and associations. It goes a lot further and it's way more effective and way faster.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. 100%. Do you think dogs are adapting to modern humans faster than humans are adapting to dogs?
Dogs are pretty darn adaptable. I mean, I guess humans are too. Whatever it is, dogs are probably faster at it, honestly. Humans are not adapting to future this and that. Like, a lot of these new technologies and new things are really amazing and help a lot of people, and also they're really destructive and are very harmful to a lot of people. And I don't think it's the same for dogs. I mean, it's kind of apples and oranges, but you know what I mean? Yeah, dogs adapt like nobody's business.
Okay, last question. So you've obviously had a show on Animal Planet, which is wonderful. You're a huge advocate for not just dogs, but animals all around the world. You have this platform and you have this influence to educate people. I'm a big believer, like the masses, people learn from people like you, people who have a voice and a passion and a vision. If you were to design a show, what would that show look like? And what message would you want to give in that show?
The effects of social media on wildlife conservation, very two-sided, mostly not good, unfortunately. That's something I've wanted to do for quite a few years now. Another one would be how different cultures approach animals on the pet side and the wildlife side, because it's really different depending on where you are in the world. Like how Americans think people should see an elephant is super different than people living in rural Kenya, for example, and all over, other parts of Africa too. And then, how dogs and cats and even domesticated animals are depicted in certain parts of rural Southeast Asia, for example. Super, super different. So maybe something kind of comparing how animals are perceived by humans amongst humans all over the world. It is way more different than people realize, like unrelatably different. It's hard to wrap your head around how people see dogs in certain parts of the world, perhaps even parts of the US, but really especially across other corners of the world.
Cool.
Those are
That was
2
it.
I think would be neat, yeah, and the wildlife thing, kinda the wildlife too, I guess, with that other people's
The
perspectives and whatnot.
social media with the wildlife. Yeah.
Yeah,
When
there's a lot of problems with that.
when it comes
It fuels,
to,
like, poaching and stuff. It fuels illegal wildlife trade, like, it's really yeah, it's not good in a lot of ways.
okay. Yeah. It's like, cause they can only see snippets. They don't get the full story of
Ah,
what, what-
just seeing a people, people play indoors with a little tiger or a little chimpanzee baby, like a little baby primate, that fuels people wanting to get those animals.
like
Um
bubbles, like Michael Jackson's bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You put them in
Yeah.
costume, like, it fuels a lot of the illegal wildlife trade that's fueled by that. Some people say, "Oh, it's so cute," or "I want one," or this or that, and it's just it's setting up the wrong context of where these animals should be depicted with people.
So, and this will be kind of wrapping up this question is like, what's the through line between like, I don't want to say the word, what's your mission, but in a way, kind of what is the ethos of at this stage in your life, your career, like, cause all of those, they kind of had something in common. It's perspective. Like,
Mhm.
what would you say the mission or your ethos of what you'd like your career to be? Cause you're still young, man. You're going to be doing this for a long time, but like, where is your North Star right now?
I think it's just where I bring value. I don't have a specific spot, but where I bring value is what you said, is just raising awareness, getting whether it's awareness towards wildlife conservation of one kind or another, like rhino horn trade, or it's good preventative pet medicine care practice. My 3 pillars are basically wildlife conservation, animal information, just facts, just the animal world, really, I guess, and then veterinary and preventative medicine. And like all of those things being like outreach, like, PSAs or raising awareness, whatever you want to call it, but just being a voice for these animals and for these pet parents and for our wildlife. That's where I can have the biggest impact. So my focus is there.
You've been nailing it. So you've been doing great. You've been doing
Oh,
amazing
thanks,
work.
man. I
I'm,
appreciate that.
yeah, I'm honored to get to know you, man. And thank you again for being part of my life and part of Kainu's life. And thanks for jumping up on this podcast with me and Vinny. I think this is our time. So I just want to thank Dr. Evan Antin for joining us on another episode of the Dog Owners Podcast. And we'll see you guys in the next one.